Well, what actually happened was in 1977, I desperately wanted to do Shaka Zulu for personal reasons. And I just couldn't get the SABC interested, right? Because it was a black subject, and they were not prepared to spend that kind of money. But in the meantime, a writer called Joshua Sinclair got hold of me, and he said, I believe that you want to do this production. I also want to do this production. Let's pool our resources. If you can't get the backing here, we'll find it elsewhere. And he came into Hollywood, met up with Frank Agrama from Harmony Gold. It began rolling. We got some pre-sales. We got ZDF involved. We got Canada involved. We got RAI involved. We got various other stations involved, okay? And at that point, in Southern Africa, the SABC realized that there's no ways they could remain uninvolved. And they then had to buy into the production. But by that time, they had to buy. They had to simply be one of the buyers, which suited us beautifully because it meant there was no control going to be exercised from that side at all. And they became like a facility. They gave us a few facilities and so on, and that's the way the thing was structured. With all due respects to the Americans, who we love very much, you know, there was talk, for instance, that some of the black roles in the production should be played by American blacks. Well, I mean, to me, that was totally absurd. And because if anyone was going to play the role of Shaka, or in fact Nandi, it should be the Zulu people themselves. And I felt very strongly that our own Zulu people, whose history it was, should have a slice of the action, because it was going to give a lot of people a lot of work, opportunities, black technicians, the chance to get in on a fairly big production. So we brought it home, as it were, to the Zulu people. And yeah, we put in some foreign white stars, but we fought to keep the black side Zulu black. It's their history, after all. And I felt that we had a lot of talent back home which needed, you know, exposed. And there they are, and I think they've proved themselves.
We're very much aware of the support because the royal family used to come now and again to on location. And I mean, my director used to like talk to them and to help us here and there, you know, things like...
In fact, I mean, our major recruitment exercise was done by virtue of the fact that the king had said, wonderful, everyone should cooperate and help, because we're dealing with their history.
The way he's been portrayed as the greatest man. And I don't want to talk about what I read in school, but what I've been told by my parents. You know, at home, mom and dad, all they were telling us about was Shaka, Nandi, all those people who are involved in the royal family, how great they are, how important they were. And when I got involved in the ministers, I took the part with pride. And when I looked at the script, I had to look at it and think of what my parents told me, what they used to tell me about the whole thing. And then when I saw it's right, it matches, you know, I didn't even think of the books at school. You know, and to me, I mean, he was portrayed as the greatest man that ever lived.
Specifically, where we come from, the history books tended to deliberately distort Zulu history for obvious reasons. And in fact, the man was always depicted as a raving, lunatic savage, okay? And what we wanted to do with this production was to, in fact, indicate, especially to white audiences, that in Africa there's a very powerful history which is as important, if not more important, than their own. And that in Zululand, for instance, there are many other monarchies, but that in Zululand, for instance, there existed a highly complex socio-economic infrastructure in that area, with a system of government which, as I said before, was just as complex as their own, and not to be derided, as had been done specifically in our history books. So we aim to correct that image. I live in Africa. I am an African, albeit I'm a white, but I'm an African. And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of whites may not agree, but as far as I'm concerned, Shaka's history is as much part of my history as the Trekkers are. Okay? It's our mutual history. We have a mutual history, and it meets because we are the ones that are descended from that history. It's our history.
Everybody was proud, you know, of of us, you know, of all the people who participated in the ministries. So, I mean, me alone, they're very, very proud of me because, okay, I've been a model for about 8 years, so everybody happens to know who am I. And here I am, being given a major part, and chances of me having chances of probably traveling overseas, coming to Los Angeles as I'm here today, I mean, to try and pursue my career. I mean, I owe it to them. You know, they are very, very proud of me. And whatever happens to my career, I'll look back to them because they've been behind me all the time. So, I mean, the people back home, they were proud of us, all of us who sort of participated in the ministries.
You see, these people have been actively involved. I think a very good example is the Cosby Show in South Africa at the moment. Now, the Cosby Show has played a major role in changing white attitudes towards blacks. Suddenly they're identifying with the Cosby family and saying, hey man, if, you know, this is what blacks are about, why can't they go to our schools? Why can't they live next door? Why can't we be together? Why can't we be the same? So we need to re-examine our values. And Shaka has done exactly that. It's not only given to the black man back his identity and a belief that his own history, because in the past it's been derided, he suddenly he can actually proudly say, listen, our history is out there and it's great. And it's also proved to the whites, and especially young kids. Young white kids in Southern Africa have looked past the colour, and today at school they're playing Shaka Zulu at school. They've got big pictures of Henry and Dudu on their walls, and they're looking to these people as heroic figures, irrespective of their colour. Now that to me, in Southern African terms, is progress. I mean, he made a public appearance a couple of weeks back, and unfortunately they hadn't arranged any kind of security. Well, chaos ensued as thousands, and I'm talking thousands of black and white kids just wanted to touch him. And eventually I believe he fled. Our great big hunky, you know, Shaka Zulu fled to his motor car, to his limousine, and they clamoured around him because the man is today a heroic figure.
I mean, being a Zulu is not that because now I am dressing the way I'm dressing, but then that's how everybody used to dress. So really, to me, it was nothing different. Okay, fine. I mean, here and there, I mean, I thought, oh, because I've been brought up in a city, and here I am, I have to walk around without, you know, like bracelets. But it was no big deal because, I mean, there were people, about thousands of people, and everybody looks very normal. So
it would have been absurd, totally absurd, to have a young Zulu maiden, for instance, fully clad. It would have gone totally against the traditions of dress, and would not have been accepted by the historians. So it was crazy for us to even... And we had this out because we knew that there were going to be problems with the nudity, and we discussed it at length with and said, you have to accept, because we will really become the laughingstock of the historians. Africa has been neglected. I think blacks have not been examined, their history has not been examined the way it should be and given the respect that it deserves. After all, Africa has an astounding history going back many, many centuries, which has also delivered some amazing African leaders. And Shaka is merely one of them, but a very important one of them. And I want the message to go out that we need to relook and reassess our African, you know, brothers, our black brothers out in Africa, and regard their history in the same light as we regard, or the Western world regards its history.
And look at it as the greatest history of the Zulus, and look at it with respect.